What's going on YouTube? Today we're going to take a look at fitting this BlackVue DR750S 2-channel and Power Magic Pro into this 2017 Ford Mustang. Some of the tools we're going to need: yellow tongue, snake. You can get this from a local hardware store or Bunnings if you're in Australia. We have a soldering iron, test light. This is an LED test light. Side cutters, solder with the soldering iron. We've got a drill here with 10mm and Phillips head attachment, fleece tape, plastic removal tools, wire strippers, 2 inline fuses, so you can use this or add circuits or fuse taps. It's mini 2 fuses in the Mustang, but we're just going to use inline fuses today. Normal tape and some zip ties. So when we open up the packaging, one of the first things you'll see is a sticker on this box. What you want to do with that sticker is put it on this booklet. Basically this has the password for the Wi-Fi for when you connect to the unit afterwards. Also, if you don't have plastic removal tools, BlackVue actually supply one with all of their kits, so you can hold on to that. And the rest of it, you've got a couple of adhesive pads, micro SD adapter, the SD card itself, and these little clips to hold wiring as well. Okay, so the first thing we want to do is look at where we're going to mount it. Now we have 2 options. We can go up here, which is out of the way of the matrix, or we can go down here. Again, it has to be under the matrix, as this is the matrix. It won't stick onto that, right? So we need to put it either down here, out of the way, so you can go right in the middle. What I like to do is go over to the left a little bit, and our wiring can run up between the rain sensor and the mirror. All right, so it will look nice there with the fabric tape. From the driver's seat, depending on how tall you are, camera's out of the way, it's out of sight, which is good. So that's where we're going to do it today. Again, you can put it here or sort of right in the middle. We'll go here from the driver's seat. It should be nice and tucked away behind the mirror. Secondly, before running any wiring, you need to determine where the fuse box is, which is where we're getting power. So in the Mustang, the fuse box is by the driver's side kick panel. So we'll make sure that when we tape up our wires, our rear camera cable will go to the left toward this A-pillar, and our power wire will go towards the right and down that A-pillar. So we'll get that mounted and taped up, and we'll go to the next step. Okay, so what we've done here is we've mounted the camera right under the matrix. We have both of our wires going up straight behind the mirror here with the factory wiring. As you can see, the factory wiring they've used the same cloth tape as we have, so the wiring looks nice. And it goes up behind there. And now what we've done is just taped up our loom and very gently pulled on the roof lining and tucked our wiring up behind the roof lining like so. So we'll tape the rest of that up, and we'll tape the rest of that up. This is our power cable, which we've got going driver's side. And first thing we'll do is tape up the rest of our rear camera cable and look at running that to the back of the car. So we've taped up the rest of our rear camera cable. Now we're going to look at removing this A-pillar. So you can use, I've got this plastic tool here. Like I said, BlackVue supply one, so you can use that as well. So what you want to do is go in behind the panel, get your plastic tool sort of in there and pry it out. We don't want to put too much pressure on any one thing. So what you'll do is you might have to play around a little bit and just get it right. Don't put the plastic tool on this side because you're putting pressure on the windshield. You definitely don't want to do that. Okay, so this A-pillar just pulls down. As you can see, there's clips that go all the way down. And now we've also got this little, I'll try and get so you can see it, this little thing here. So it just slides out, and then you have to twist the other way and slide it out, okay? And this just holds the panel in place. So there's 2 of those clips, one horizontal, one vertical. Then you can slide the panel up and pull it the rest of the way out. So there's little feet right there, they just pull straight up. Now there's a speaker here, so don't pull too hard. And then just disconnect that little speaker. It's just a little push-in clip, and then you can remove the A-pillar. Set that down. Now with our wiring, we can see the factory wiring goes up behind the airbag, and that's exactly what we're going to do. We're not going to tuck our wires in underneath here because they're right underneath the airbag, so in the event that the airbag ever goes off, there's wiring right there, which is a terrible idea. So we'll run our yellow tongue up above the airbag all the way along the back. I'll show you how to do that now. Okay, so with our yellow tongue, we're going up above and just very gently pushing. If you feel resistance instantly, you need to take it out and redo it. Until it feels like this. It's just very, very easily running. So if you can hear that, it sounds like it's made it to the back. What we'll do is we'll leave that, we'll go to the back and have a look. Okay, so the last pillar on the back of the car is the C pillar. What we're gonna do is, you can almost just use your hand as well, just very lightly pull on it. All right, again, it's just clips, and we're gonna have a look for our yellow tongue. Okay, so the snake was tucked up in underneath there. So as we can see, above the airbag, right, above the airbag, just like we want. So now what we can do is attach our rear camera cable to the yellow tongue and pull it through. The way we attach our yellow tongue is not like this. We will fold it in half, or just fold it like that, and tape it to the yellow tongue like so, and then pull it through. So that way this will stay safe and you won't ruin the pins on this little plug. Okay, so we've pulled our yellow tongue most of the way through until we can see our wire. We'll untape our wire from now and then just pull the yellow tongue the rest of the way through. And as you can see, again, above the airbag, and we're taped up with the same tape as genuine. So now what we'll do is measure roughly how much length we want to get our rear camera cable toward the middle of the rear windscreen. And so we'll pull just enough as we need. So right about there, a little bit more, and then start tucking above the roof lining like that, and just use your fingers to very lightly pull down. That's it, and tuck it in. All right, no, just like that. And now we can put this panel back on, and we'll have a look at it after. So when you're putting this panel on, you need to line up your clips at the top, but you also need to look at the bottom. I'm not too sure if you can see that, but there's two little clips that need to go into the corresponding panel first. Then you can line up these clips, and that's it, done. So you give it a feel, make sure everything's in, and that's perfect. And so we can have a look, everything looks fine, untouched. Perfect. Okay, so with the rear camera, we've cleaned up the rear windshield. Same thing, we've attached the rear camera just above the little bit of matrix that's up there. Give it a bit of pressure. We can see the wiring here. That's the only wiring you can see. We've felt up here to make sure we're all tucked away. Panels are back in perfectly. Give it a wipe. And that's the rear camera done. When mounting the rear camera in a car, not a hatchback, you can't see that, but the BlackVue HD should read forward the normal way, so you don't have to play with the rear camera rotation. So we've got a bunch of excess wiring here. So what we're going to do is tuck this the rest of the way, and then we'll bundle it up. So we've tucked our wiring the rest of the way. Underneath, just make sure it is. We've bundled it up just like this, and what we'll do is tuck it in above the airbag. right with the factory wiring. Right, just tuck that in there. Now we can look at putting our A-pillar back on. So when putting the A-pillar back on, there's a couple things to look out for. 1, connect your speaker. 2, this little tab here slides in behind this panel, and these 2 little feet slide into the corresponding holes on the dash. So you line these up first, and then you can push it in. Okay, so we've plugged in the speaker. Right, we've got that clip is obviously in tucked properly. Both of our feet are in properly as we don't see any gaps. And so now we can look at reconnecting that. It's basically pretty simple. You just push it in, one, and then twist it and push in the other side like that, so they both come through. And then you can look down here and start lining up those clips to where they need to go. Okay, so if I push here, I'm not pushing very hard. We can see that there's nothing happening. That's an indication that we're not lined up. So move around a bit. There we go. See that? And now it just pushes into place. That's perfect. And so look here, lined up perfectly. Lined up. Lined up. Now we can tuck the roof lining back to the rubber like this, which is easy. Or even use your finger. Get your finger underneath, and we'll look at it after. Okay, so all done. Back in, lined up perfectly. We double check here, double check your wiring, and then give it a clean, wipe all the fingerprints off, and then we'll move to the other side and do our power. So sitting in the driver's seat, pretty much where my head is, you can't see the camera. If you're a little bit shorter, you'll see it, but that's all right. Okay, so same thing, tucked our wiring up. We used our plastic panel removal tool to pry this down, and literally the exact same thing as the other side. We've got a couple of clips there. We've got that other weird little clip thing which will pop out. Pull up after removing that, unplug the speaker, and remove that. Okay, so as you can see, what I've done is just taped our loom to the factory loom. So we've got one attached right there, follow it down, attached right here, follows it down, and attached right here. Then I've popped our plastic panel removal tool into here and just put a little bit of pressure to pry this panel out, and we'll follow that the rest of the way down, like so. And then we can slide that out. So then what we'll do is get this wire out the way. We'll just tuck in here, and we'll tuck down here, and then we'll tuck our wiring through there so we can meet the wiring at the fuse box. And then we'll start looking at removing these panels. There's 2 ways of doing this. You can do what I'm doing now and tuck that. This is the fast way. I'm doing this so people at home can do this. It makes it fairly quick. Or you can use a snake and go in behind down there where the factory loom goes. But realistically, it's not going to make a huge difference. Once you put that panel back on, it's not going to, you're not going to see any wiring, nothing like that. All right, so next up we have this panel here. Same thing, plastic removal tool underneath, pry up. There's a few clips there, so you can see it's coming up. Again, there's another clip in there, so this isn't going to be held down too hard. There's probably one more clip down here which I'm going to need 2 hands to do, and then it will pull up. That was the other clip there, it was just holding in. So you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 clips, and then it literally just slides up out of the way, which will then show you to this panel, which we can pull up and out to the side. Alright, we'll take a look in here. So right down here, just behind the accelerator, there's a clip. So it's a turn screwing clip, so we can unscrew it. Alright, that's it there. And then for memory, this panel slides up like that. So to get this one out, it just slides up. So you can see those little feet lock it into place. So we slide it up out of the way. Now that will expose the fuse box, but we're going to actually remove this panel as well. So we can slide that out just like that and down so it doesn't hit anything. And we've got all those panels out of the way. So now we're exposed to a whole bunch of wiring and the fuse box which is in there. I'm not sure you can see it. So like I said, there's two ways to do this. If you've got the add circuits or fuse taps, you can use them. This is what I would normally do. So these are mini 2 fuses, the small ones. So most of those on the right. But if you don't have them, I'll show you how to connect to wiring in the car. Now you need to use, even though these circuits are already fused, you need to at least use inline fuses like I showed you at the start, just to protect all circuits in the car. Okay, so I've just cut this loom open, this big loom here. Now when we are using wiring in the car as opposed to using the fuse taps, you want to stay away from all of this very, very thin wiring and twisted pairs. Stay right away from that. We want to look for a nice thick power wire, and there's a fair few of them here. So first thing we do is ground our test light. So we get the alligator clips of your test light and ground it to something like that on the door. And then with your test light you probe, so you'll have to use 2 hands, probe each wire, and what we're looking for is the test light to light up on one of these wires while the car is off, no ignition on, and that will show us constant power from the battery. Okay, so as we can see here, we've got light on the yellow with red trace wire. Now what we'll do is turn the ignition of the car on. And make sure we've still got power. Perfect. And now we'll search for another wire. This is one of the first wires that I probed that didn't have power. So if we check that now, nothing. All right, so we'll keep looking. So the next wire we've got is green with orange trace and it lights up. So we turn the ignition off and the light turns off. So that's the one we want. Okay, so what we've done is used our wire strippers to not cut the wire but just split it open and expose the copper, and then we've done the same thing on our inline fuses, and we've wrapped the copper around the copper from this is the constant power wire, and same as the accessory or switched wire. Now this is what the loom for the PowerMagic Pro looks like. So we'll open up that and dissect it and have a look at how this gets wired up. Okay, so you've got the plug. Then we've got the wiring that goes down. You've got 3 input wires. That's them there. So branch them off and tape them up separately. Yeah. We have yellow, which says battery on it. So that's going to go to our constant wire at the other end, right there. We have red, which is accessories, so that's going to go to the accessory or switched wire, at the other end there obviously. And then there's ground, which is there. And so what we'll do is there's a couple of bolts here that go into the vehicle, as you can see there. You can put them there, or you can drill a new hole in there if you've got a self-drilling screw or something like that. We can use that 10mm, undo those, whatever you fancy, but just get it on a nice piece of metal like this and there, or into the body behind in there. After that, we'll go through and show you how that's done, and very, very important, solder all of these connections. Okay, so our little grounding point, we've just removed that 10mm nut, we've put it over the thread and then tightened the nut back up. All of our connections are soldered, so when we see our solder, it should go all the way through the wiring and the copper. So you hold your iron on and you feed the solder into it until you can see that it's absorbed all the way through onto the copper on all connections. Then what we'll do is tape that up so our 3 inputs are done. We only have 2 wires after that left, and as you can see, they both connect to this. So how it works is it gets its feed from the battery, goes through the module, and then sends the output to this, which plugs right into our BlackVue camera and keeps it powered up with through the PowerMagic Pro. Dip switch settings, 2 down and 4 down. So 2 and 4, what does that show us? 2 down is 12 volt, 4 down 24 hours. So whatever comes first, 12 volts or 24 hours, that's when the unit will turn off. Okay, so we've taped our soldered connections with the normal electrical tape, and then we went over everything with the fabric tape. And so that was the loom that we attached to. Our fuses are just down here and I've taped them to that loom. So everything looks factory, looks untouched. Inside those inline fuses, we've got 2 5-amp fuses, that's all you need. Now we can basically plug in our PowerMagic Pro, and what you'll see is we go off, on. Okay, so basically what do we have here? No 12 volt. So we start up the vehicle. And there we go. So now the PowerMagic Pro is reading more than 12 volts. We can mount this somewhere fairly accessible. You don't want it hidden too far away because it does have settings that may need to be changed. I've found that 2 and 4 down is the best setting. I've only ever had, I think, 1 car come back that needed to be changed to 12.5 volts. But other than that, this is a safe setting. So I'm looking up in this area for somewhere to mount the PowerMagic Pro. We'll come back, have a look at it when it's mounted. Okay, I actually found a way better spot. So in behind that little panel, there's a piece of metal of the body. So the PowerMagic Pro comes with a 3M adhesive pad. So I've just removed this rubber, wedged it in, so it's good because it actually does sort of wedge in there as well, and it's not going anywhere. So basically, if we do ever need to access the PowerMagic Pro, all we need to do is remove this panel once it's all back together. So nice and easy. So from here, what we do is plug in the BlackVue. So we ran our wire before, somewhere there, plug it in, bundle up the length, tape up the rest of the wiring so it looks nice and untouched, and then start putting it back together. Okay, so everything's been tidied up. So we've taped up our length, we've put a bit of extra tape around some of the other looms as well, just to tie everything in together. So looking from here, looks factory, doesn't look like anything's been fitted. Up above here, there's a big loom, and I've zip tied our bundle to that, as you can see. So that's not going anywhere. And then we've got our PowerMagic Pro tucked away in there, and everything's ready to go back together. First panel is this kick panel. So basically it slides in, we just make sure we're out of the way of everything else. It goes behind that panel, so make sure you do that first, and then these clips will line up and you can feel them, and that's it. The carpet just got caught under there, so just pull that out, like so. And just make sure you can feel all the clips have gone in. Peel the rubber back. So this panel here had 3 feet. We started with it sitting above, higher than this panel. We slide the feet 1, 2, 3 into this panel. Then the clip, there's one clip at the back, you line that up and push it in, and then these, so you slide those feet down, you push that in, you'll notice a little bow right about here. Once you've clipped that in and those feet are been slid down, just give it a tap, as you would have felt me before, and then that will lock that little clip into place, and then don't forget that little screw down in there. Next up, this kick panel. So this one's going to be nice and easy. First thing, you line it up. Line up the bottom first, and then you can push one clip in. So we see that's lined up. Put your fingers down there and make sure that it is in line with this panel here. So you can see they're not out of place. Do the same on this side. Line it up. Push it in. And then give it a hit the rest of the way so all the clips go in, and then just fold this rubber back. So with this panel, what you want to do first is make sure you slide the back of it into the rubber. So you make sure it's not in front of the rubber or behind it. So once you've slid it in, it goes over that. You start lining up these little clips. So we've lined up 1, 2, we've lined that up now. So everything seems lined up. You can start just tapping it. That's it, until all the clips are in. That's it. Then A-pillar, same as before. That clip in there. The 2 feet line up with the feet, with the holes in the dash. Don't forget your speaker, plug it in, and then we look at that and clipping it back in place. So as we can see, A-pillar back in, all lined up. No issues down here. So that's it, everything is done. Now we'll go through the app. With this A-pillar, I did have a bit of trouble with this not lining up. So what happens is, make sure you get those little feet located, and even if this part is pushed out and sort of looks like there's a gap there, as long as you can see that the little foot is in its place, finish the rest of the panel off, getting your clips in, those little clips and all that sort of stuff. And then once this is all lined up, it will sort of force the rest of the panel into place, providing that you've got that little foot in its hole. So make sure that happens. All right, last but not least, the app. So what we do is go to the App Store, download this BlackVue app. Once that's downloaded, to connect to the device, you go into Wi-Fi settings on your phone, and it will turn the ignition on, and you'll see BlackVue there, 750S. So we hit that. Now the password, where did I put it? In the glove box. We wrote down, so well, it came on the sticker, so we'll pop that in. If you've got the password right, it will connect. Go into the BlackVue app. Hit the middle one. So it's going to show you the videos. Basically how this works, the color codes, so normal recording, all the blue files are normal recording. That shows front camera, that shows rear. Anything green is event. Parking mode for P, and motion detection. So these are just filters, so you can turn off everything and just look at normal recordings, parking mode events. So this would have registered for me touching the camera while it was being fitted. Then what you want to do is go up to your little, first look at your footage. So front camera looks good, it could probably go up 1 click, perfect. Rear camera, so I'll go to the back and aim that up more. So we don't want to see half of the screen of all this. We just want to see the bottom part of it. So like that. Then look at your version. Look for the update. So firmware update I've got at 14. But the way to check that you've got the right firmware is quickly turn off your Wi-Fi settings, go into the BlackVue app, hit that, firmware download, put in the device, so it's a 750S2 channel, and so there is another update, so we'll download that. Then you can turn your Wi-Fi back on, connect back to the unit, settings, firmware update, so 1.011 up to 15, okay. And then don't touch the phone or the unit, and make sure the car is running or the ignition is on when you do this. And then let that upload, and then the unit will reboot. And then there's one more setting and we're done. Okay, now the unit is rebooted, we've connected to the Wi-Fi again. Go back into the settings. Have a look at your live view again. So front camera looks good. Rear camera's been adjusted. That's better, it could probably go up a little bit more. We've got the latest firmware update. Then go into firmware settings, basic, time and date, and then put in your time